We are live with Zach Francis today with us today. He's a co-founder at MagicBlog, was the CRO, still is at Smart Pickle, co-founder at Kryptonite, Tiny House, Feliz, so serial entrepreneur there, amongst other experiences. We're going to talk about his current company. He's developing real estate and launching startups with his brother Jason. So he's a family man, has 4 kids. He's a sailor, beekeeper, and explorer. So we're gonna talk about the Francis brothers, amongst other topics today. So this podcast is brought to you by podpire.com. Podpire.com is my company to help you grow and monetize your podcast. You want to start a podcast, get some guests, get on other podcasts, and get podcast sponsors, you can go to podpire.com. Zach, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I wanted to say thank you so much for having me on here today, Charles. Excited to dive into it. And yeah, you kind of nailed it. We've been doing a lot of different businesses throughout the years here. I do pretty much everything with my brother, Jason, who's not on the call today, but we work together. We generally sit in the same room together, but he's actually sick today, so I'm somewhere else. But yeah, so we have been working on our current project is MagicBlog.ai, so MagicBlog, and it's an auto blogging tool and system to help businesses that want to scale up their SEO and also their ranking, their domain authority, and everything to really help businesses show up when people are searching for their services online. That's what we're currently working on. Probably most of our time's going into that, but we've done a handful of other things. We have a few other businesses that we're also operating in the background too. So,
very cool. Let's start with your beginning. So it seems it was mostly in the real estate, right, with tiny luxury. So why did you start in real estate, which usually requires extensive capital?
yeah, so we started in real estate. We actually started building. I mean, we like to say I started swinging hammers when I was in the diapers. My dad was a contractor for 30 plus years, and he taught us everything that we know. So he also managed rentals and stuff. So he would take us to go do the maintenance. He would take us on the job sites and everything, and got a handful of my first scars on job sites and stuff. So that's pretty much how we got our start in contracting. Actually started building residential homes when I was 16. So actually dropped out of high school to do a big sailing trip with my dad because he was a sailor as well. We went from San Diego to Australia, hit up all the South Pacific Islands. And then when we got home, we started building like regular size houses. Did that for a while. We would just work together, me, my brother, my dad. And then eventually we actually built my brother-in-law's house as well. And then from that, we started jumping into the tiny house world. So we started building tiny homes on wheels. And that was just me, my brother, and my brother-in-law. We did that for a while, got picked up by HGTV, did 4 seasons, almost 40 episodes on HGTV there. And then from that, we realized that we didn't love the whole production of it because it was like over 50 employees. We were just getting run down. We started having kids, like you're mentioning, and we were basically like, we're ready to not work 80 hours a week doing something that we don't love. So we jumped out of tiny homes, went a little bit back into normal construction. But that's where we really actually got our love for online marketing and online business is kind of through the tiny house business that we're running. We really were able to get a lot of visitors on the website. We were able to kind of grow the brand there and the brand awareness and so on. And that was our favorite part and what we loved the most. And so after that, we were like, all right, let's dive into that and figure out how we can build something that really resonates with what we're wanting to do and build a business around the lifestyle that we're wanting to have. So, yeah.
Cool. And was it also having to do with the profitability of real estate and the capital extensiveness of it via SaaS models like MagicBlog?
A little bit. So we had plenty of access to capital if we were looking to scale and grow. For the tiny house world, it's pretty hard to get an actual operating business to be very profitable in the tiny house world. So that was definitely a scalability limit there that we wanted to get out of that, partly because of the profitability of it. And a large part of that is because we'd have 50 employees and it'd be like, all right, like get these homes done as fast as you can. So we're on a filming schedule. We got to get it done for this. And then they'd be like, but everybody stop working right now for the next hour and a half. We're going to film a scene. And so we'd have 50 employees sitting around doing nothing while we're just burning through cash. We're like, oh, like that's not what we want to be doing. So so definitely, as far as like the profitability of it, it's a bit harder in that sense. And then we basically made a decision, like, do we want to go like big full time and really dive in with a huge capital intensive, and that can be pretty dependent on the economy, and if the economy like crashes or corrects or whatever, you can actually get hurt sometimes, but also other times you can just be absolutely killing it. And so we were like, hey, let's we enjoy it, but my favorite type of construction or favorite type of construction projects is working for somebody else for free when I'm helping a friend or something like that, rather than like trying to hit a deadline and really just, think about the numbers about it all day. That's what I would normally do. So, yeah.
Right. And you started from the get-go with like the reality show concept. Do you feel that was a huge win, or was it, like you said, more stressful? Like, yeah. And why did you start from the gates with a reality show as a business model, sort of?
Yeah, so it actually wasn't our very first one. So we'd already built 2 tiny homes before they picked us up. But our first one, we got in all the different publications like Country Living and a bunch of different magazines and stuff like that, people, because we were pretty much the first luxury tiny house on wheels company. And so when we did that, it was like, picked up some eyes across the country. And that's how we got the TV show out of it. We actually said no so many times we got reached out to by probably like 15 different production companies. We kept saying no, 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 no. And then finally one guy was like, hey, the chances are like 1 in a million that it actually, because we could probably get you a pilot, but that's like 1 in 1,000. And then to go to like actual season is like 1 in a million, basically. And we're like, we'll bet against those chances, basically. And we're like just kind of playing our odds there, because none of us were really like gunning for it, but we didn't actually know what we were getting into as far as like the business side of reality TV and so on, and like how that basically takes precedent over your business. So part of it is ignorance, part of it is we basically said no for multiple times, and we finally like we'll just see what happens. So yeah.
Right. Very cool. And the tiny house concepts, like, yeah, you can deploy your tiny house on a parcel of beach that you bought or rented. So that's pretty cool. Like the location freedom, quote unquote. Now, tell me about Felice. It seems you followed one of your other passion there, just coffee. I'd like to start my own coffee brand, not for profits, but just to say I have mine because I'm here in Oaxaca, which is a mecca for coffee. Tell me about that one that lasted 10 months.
Yeah, that was a fun one. We actually really enjoyed that. It was one of our ventures into like basically making a really fun and poppy brand. And so it's Feliz, which means happy, obviously, in Spanish. And so we really wanted to make it like a fun loving brand there. Prior to that, I've been like roasting coffee in my own, like, right outside my garage for years. I've been doing it. I've stopped since, but I would always roast my own coffee, which I found like really fun. And it's like a fun little hobby to do. So I love coffee. We live up in just outside of Portland, Oregon, which is like not a coffee growing mecca, but it's definitely like a coffee connoisseur mecca. And so there's a lot of high end coffee here. And we actually jumped into the instant coffee side of things. And so it was like the freeze dried, or not necessarily freeze dried, but the instant coffee that you can just pour into hot water. And we were really trying to jump on the back of the Dalgona wave. I don't know if you like ever got into Dalgona, which was like a specific like kind of like sweet treat, almost dessert type of drink that you could make. It's like you whip it up, and then it's like really frothy and foamy, and it's really delicious. So we jumped into that, and it was kind of like right when that was exploding on, I think it was on TikTok. And so we were like, hey, let's just try our hand at like jumping into something like that. And we sort of missed that Dalgona wave, but what we did was we put it onto Amazon. We actually found that it was just selling itself. Like that was one of our first businesses that we look back as like, hey, like that actually like just was selling itself. And we had some experience on Amazon because we had actually done like a stationary Amazon business, like fulfilled by Amazon, where it was like thank you cards and such for businesses and stuff. And we got our feet wet in Amazon with that. And then on the instant coffee side of things, it was a little bit different because obviously it's like a food product, and so you have to like jump through more hoops and so on. And we finally figured out how to kind of crack that code, and just the sales were coming through. Not crazy, but it was happening. And at this point in time, we were like actually the ones who were packing all the coffee ourselves. And so like, once a month we'd bust out all the coffee equipment and everything, the canning machines and everything. We just, but the instant coffee just makes your whole entire house just so dusty, covered with this like layer of like that coffee. It's almost like sticky when you're done with it. And so we did that for a while, and then we basically were wanting to scale into like a different vertical, and we were gonna either put it on pause or move on with it. And we ended up finding some people who wanted to buy the business from us, and so we just sold it to them and moved on from that. But we look back and was like, oh man, that was a really fun one. But we did see it as like it was going to be a multi-year like grind to get it to where we were wanting it to be, which probably would have been worthwhile doing. But it's hindsight's 2020, so we view it as a really good stepping stone from where we are now. So.
Right. And we didn't fully finish the tiny house part here because you launched tinyhouse.com, which is a nice domain. And it seems that your business model there is mostly a Google AdSense, right? So that's how you make money with that one?
Yeah, so tinyhouse.com, it's got a few different avenues of monetization. Display ads, like you're saying, is definitely a big one. That one's definitely been hurt a bit over the last year, basically since the helpful content update of 2023 in September. But a few different other monetization avenues, which would be like it's an education site, and so we have like a membership on there. We host events and so on through that, and then also digital products. And so we sell some digital educational products, but we also sell digital plans for people who are looking to go tiny and they need a set of plans, blueprints that they can build off of. We like to brag that ours are more DIY friendly than kind of the average blueprints out there, because a lot of people doing the tiny house thing they've never built before. So how are they going to know even how to interpret blueprints? And so we really make to where it's pretty self-explanatory when you're actually just going through the blueprints and trying to identify like what you need to be doing next and so on. So, and we also can offer customer service there too. So.
Right. And since when have you gotten into crypto? Because you launched Crypto Night in 2021, and it seems smart, right? It's like post-COVID, people want to meet. It's a global crypto conference, and the crypto community is tight, and there's a lot of hype and excitement around it. So tell me about that one.
Yeah, so let's see. We've been in crypto for a little bit prior to that, but we really probably started sinking our teeth in it around like late 2020, early 2021. So it was like relatively at the top of the past bull cycle there. But what we did was we actually created taking our experience of throwing online events in the tiny house space. We're like, hey, same sort of thing in the crypto space, like basically what you're saying, people need it. And so we decided to host a virtual crypto event online. And as we were planning it and getting it all put together and everything, we actually teamed up with an in-person event that was going to be hosted over in Florida. And so we did the online version of it. And it was actually all completely different speakers. None of it was really live streamed. But we kind of teamed up in a lot of senses. So we flew down to Florida and we kind of hosted it all together. The in-person one definitely didn't do as good as intended. It probably got like 40% filled up, something like that. But our online one, it blew up and it was like really great. But another one of those learning stepping stone experiences, because by the time we were done with it, we probably didn't really make much money off of it. And so we're like, it's a ton of work and I don't know if we want to do it again. And ever since then, we've been like doing some branding and marketing, web design, and so on for some different crypto projects and websites and stuff like that. And we actually do a lot of Edge Of's design and everything as well, and their websites and everything. So Edge Of Company is a big kind of website and stuff. They have Edge of NFT, and they actually hosted NFT LA. and they really wanted us to do the online version of NFTLA. But at that point in time, we said, no, we don't want to do it. And we look back and like, oh man, that was a missed opportunity, because it totally just blew up, and they did it right. They did a really good job in person event, and they also were riding the NFT wave at that point. So it just absolutely took off. It was pretty cool. So they're a great company. Yeah.
Right. And planning events is, very stressful, very in the moment. So yeah, it has its pros, but mostly cons in my opinion. Smart Pickle. So you mentioned CRO there, but like I think you're co-founder with Jason on that one too. So AI restaurant marketing automation. So why launch in like an entirely different field again?
Yeah. So that was one that it was kind of our first launch into SaaS business. We're really excited about it. We still think it's got like a huge potential. Right now, it's somewhat on the back burner, so it's not really operating as fully right now. But it was a project that a friend had started, and he launched, but he happened to launch right in March of 2020, so right when COVID hit, and obviously restaurants were kind of buckling down at that point, and so it went into like a hiatus for a while, and then we took it over and started scaling it and growing it from there. Got a little bit of traction on it, but kind of like you're saying, there's a lot that we don't know in that industry, and so we decided that it was probably best if we spend our time working on some other of our projects and so on. But we have pretty extensive experience in the marketing side of things, which is what we're pushing. But there's also some competitors in the space. Basically, we're going up against like Square and some of the like Toast and Clover, some of the major like POS systems out there for restaurants, and specifically those software have some marketing features built into it. They're not very powerful at all, but it's a lot harder to get somebody to use a new software than just use the one that they're plugged into already. So that was the challenge that we were running into. And we were basically either going to have to like dive in deeper and do a slight pivot, or work on what we currently had that was showing some real progress. So decided to put the effort where it was showing progress.
And what's your mindset when it comes to failure, pivoting, taking notes, and growing?
Oh man, yeah, I definitely think that that's a huge aspect of being an entrepreneur, is like being willing to take the failure and use it as a growth, like another step in the right direction. I mean, looking back at our entrepreneur journey, we'd probably say we have more failures than we have successes by far. But without a lot of those failures, like we wouldn't be able to, get that next step in the right direction. And it's definitely a bummer, because we spent months, years working on projects that we just literally have to throw in the trash, but and a ton of money on all those projects as well. But I mean, it definitely is without those experiences, like we'd still be back where we were in the beginning. And I think it's a journey. It's not like you start and then you get to the end immediately. It's like, it's a journey. That's what it is. It's a part of the adventure. And if you aren't willing to take the failures with the successes, then you might as well not start. So yeah.
And what about working with your brother? Do you just fully get along with him, and he's just the most viable option to you? Like, what do you do when personal interferes with business?
Yeah, for sure. So thankfully we get along like extremely well. Like we're, pretty similar mindset on a lot of things. We're, obviously raised by the same parents, and we're able to have that same kind of vision for our families and for our lives and so on. And we actually even live just a block away from each other. So we do pretty much like everything in life together. I'd say like 98% of the time we agree with each other, but then there's that 2% where we're like iron sharpening iron, like helping each other identify which path is actually better. And that's when we'll kind of get into it sometimes. But most of the time it's actually probably when one of us is discouraged, like we had another failure, whatever it is, and like one of us just like down and discouraged, the other one can, help lift them up and encourage the other. And because one of us will probably play more the devil's advocate when we're discouraged, and it's like, oh man, like what about this? Like, why is that? And the other person kind of got to balance it out. So most of the time it's good. there's a few things that we'll disagree on, but at the end of the day, we've, I guess, learned how to come to our differences and be like, all right, well, I guess you take it on this one and whatnot. So, but thankfully it works pretty smoothly. We've had a couple of other co-founders in the past, and it just, the vibe's not quite right. It just doesn't seem to go smoothly. Great people, love them, but it's just slightly different ways of operating. And so definitely thankful that can do it with my brother, and we're able to, work through our differences there. So.
Right. Thanks for all these insights. Let's say that you take all these insights from the past 10, 15 years, you package them up and you came up with MagicBlog. So what insights did you digest to came up with MagicBlog? Why the SaaS model? Why AI? Why the blogging aspect of it? Tell me the thesis behind MagicBlog.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of it is basically applying what we've learned, like you said, over the past 15 years. And a large part of that is basically like seeing what worked in our past businesses. And consistently, we can point to every single time that we actually put effort into our business, into our website, it actually showed better results on the backside. And so we decided, hey, let's jump into this and put more effort and energy here. It's definitely not an exciting thing, and there's no short-term gratification in SEO work. It's always long-term gratification, but the results, it's pretty much a proven method. Like if you put in the energy here, like you will see results within, a year. You'll definitely start seeing results, and people are just not willing to do that because they have too many other irons in the fire, too many other pressing things that they've got to get done right now. And so we figured, if we combine it with AI and we optimize the system to where it's basically touchless, they set up the auto blogging jobs one time and then they never have to touch it again, or maybe they can optimize it later on, but they never have to touch it. They'll get, probably at least 80% of those results with less than 1% of the energy. And so we really saw that was like a missing piece for most businesses. And we also, we've kind of found that like, hey, whatever's the most simple thing to do, like that makes a lot of sense. Like take something really complex, make it simple, and turn it into something that's just it simplifies the business owner's life and also optimizes where they're wanting to go and grow with their scalability there. So definitely that's probably a large aspect of why we chose to do it. And also it's not probably our favorite part of it, but we also are trying to embrace it and dive into it, which is, it's somewhat a boring aspect. It's not like this cutting edge, like new thing that we're doing for businesses. It's blogging. Like people have blogged for years and years, but the results are proven years and years. And so we're diving into it, even though it's not the most exciting, exhilarating thing to be doing. But like I said, it's proven results at the end of it. So, yeah.
So I'm currently looking for such a software. Is it fully automated? Would it work on my WordPress websites?
Yeah, so we have integrations with all the large website platforms right now. WordPress is definitely one of the ones that we're integrated in. And yeah, it's fully automated except for the very initial setup. But right now we're helping our different customers that we're working with get set up on it. And so basically all you got to do is jump in, you integrate it to your website through the API key, and then you tell it which platform you're using, and then you can set up your auto blogging jobs. And what I love about it is we have multiple different auto blogging job options. And it's not just like one auto blogging job for your whole thing. So that way you can allocate more energy and effort to certain topics and keywords, and you can set up the auto blogging jobs just slightly different. And you can basically A/B test your different auto blogging jobs. And you can also identify, like if you had a specific keyword and you want to put most of your effort there, you can put it all, you can put like 60% there, and then you had another smaller keyword that you're wanting to hit, you can put, a portion, 10% here, 10% here, 10% here type of things, that it's not just like all allocated in one specific topic and genre. And with the software, basically, as you put in kind of the core keyword that you're looking for, then it helps you identify secondary keywords, helps you identify alternative or just different topics of interest and topics within that kind of realm. And so you can identify all of that sort of stuff, and which gives you puts a lot of power in your hands when you're doing the auto blogging. So that way you can have a really diverse set of blog posts that are going to be published at whatever frequency you're telling it to publish at. So yeah, I mean, that's what we're building it for, is basically anybody who's got a website should be blogging, because it will, no matter what, it'll prove results over time. It's not going to be immediate, but it will prove results. And that's why we're building it. Yeah.
And at what stage is Google and these search engines at detecting if this is AI or not? And yeah, have you seen AI articles perform equal or better than human written ones?
Yeah. So over the last 10 months, that's really what we put a heavy emphasis on, because we had the product done like a year ago. But over the last 10 months, we basically put all of our effort into optimizing quality of it. And so we actually have a large library of prompts that we have AI reason with itself to identify which prompts it should use for which sections of the article that it's writing. And that way it's a unique article every single time. And with that, Google is not against AI articles, but they want it to be helpful and they want it to be useful, which is why it needs to be such a high quality article. I think there's different things that can set off AI's kind of spam policies more, which would be like the frequency of posting and like how many are you posting in a single day and different things along those lines that will probably more likely set off Google's spam policies. But as far as like AI, Google doesn't really care if it's written with AI or not. They just want to make sure that it's helpful to whoever the end user is. And so you can have AI articles that rank better than, just human written ones. And a large aspect of that as well is there's so many human written articles out there that actually aren't very good. Like most businesses, when a business owner goes and puts a little bit of time into their blog and like, hey, I'm going to write 6 articles, and they write 6 articles over the span of a month or 2, and then they never touch their blog again for another year and a half. And then they write another couple of articles and then they don't touch again. That's kind of the average, business blogging articles that are out there. And most of the time when we jump on there and look at them, they're not well optimized. The keywords aren't even very good in there. It doesn't even read well. It's not even very helpful to anybody. That's like our experience that we're finding a lot when we're diving into our customers' current blogs, if they even have a blog. And so our content is really optimized to ideally perform better and also be a better end result, more helpful to the end users. That's really what we're putting a heavy emphasis on. So
thank you for that. A couple of rapid fire to finish this off. You have 4 kids. How do you manage all of that? You have systems in place. You're about to have 5. So tell us your tricks. I'm expecting in the next couple of years.
Oh man, well, yeah, that's exciting. It's definitely such a fun time, and we actually have 5 now. So our 5th came in August. I need to update my bio apparently, but we have 5. It definitely is. It's a challenge finding the amount of time that we need to work. I mean, that's probably my biggest, not complaint in life, but thing that I've always said is like I just don't feel like I have enough time for everything. But at the end of the day, like we all have the same amount of time, and we just have to get after it. And what I've really found is it's the what you're specifically spending your time on that makes the biggest difference. And when I cut my day down to, if it happens to be a 4-hour day, I end up getting just as much done than if it was a 7-hour day or whatever it seems like most of the time. And sure, there's maybe a little bit of things that I, had to slightly, cut corners or whatever it is slightly, but it's not things that actually matter. It's not going to be those long-term result in like metric moving things. And so definitely just focus is the biggest one that I'm working on. Yeah.
Yeah, Parkinson law, whether you take 4 or 7 hours to do a task, so you try to compress it. So that's a great productivity law. You're also a sailor. What lessons or bridges can you make between business or startup building and being a sailor?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the one that kind of comes to top of mind right now is just like kind of being along for the ride. And like when you're sailing, like the difference between a powerboat and sailboat is when you get on the powerboat, you're like, all right, where are we going? Whereas when you get on the sailboat, it's a lot more of like, we're here. And so when you're building a business, you do have to just kind of be in the moment. You have to be right there in that moment. And sometimes I think I dream too far off, and I'm constantly thinking like, well, when we get to this point, when we do this, whatever, but I need to just stay focused on like the task at hand today. Like, this is what I'm currently working on, and so on. So that's a knee-jerk reaction, what I'd say right now.
And last but not least, a beekeeper. So you nurture bees, and bees are fragile creatures, right? So what lessons did you learn taking care of bees?
Oh man, this is our second year of doing bees as of right now, and it's our second failed year of doing bees. So like you're saying, they're very fragile. Our first year, we actually went through 2 different colonies and 2 different hives, and then 3 different queens, and they just like either they would kill the queen or they just would fly off or whatever it is. And then this year we got a new colony, a new hive, and we actually really succeeded. We grew, they're really strong and healthy, and then they just never produced honey in our honey super. They produce honey in like the other different boxes, but we were wanting to make sure that they had enough honey to survive the winter, which is a big aspect of being up here kind of in the cold in the winter. They don't have any food anywhere else, so they got to make sure they have their honey. So we didn't want to take any of their actual honey, but they, for some reason, they built out the hive inside of the honey super, which is where you would normally collect the honey from, but they didn't actually fill it with honey. And we're like, like, what are you doing? Come on. It's almost like they knew that we were going to take it up there, so they just chose not to. But yeah, dealing with failure and those is definitely another aspect of what I'd say we can apply that to business there, and realizing that like just because we failed doesn't mean that we can't succeed in the future. So.
And last but not least, where do you want to take the Francis Brothers brands in the next couple of years?
Yeah, that's a hot topic that we're deciding on, because ideally we would love to, if in a perfect world, we would love to just go sailing and go spend time with our family and teach and train our kids. But on the other side of it, something that we're really passionate about is teaching young entrepreneurs. And that's probably what I'm most excited about when my kids are just a little bit older and can start teaching them like business and actually like running businesses with them, starting businesses. I'm really excited for that with our kids. And so that's probably what we'll turn it into, is more of like a founding fathers type of platform where it's talking about like parenthood, it's talking about young entrepreneurs and a different kind of myriad of that sort of stuff. So that's what we're most passionate about.
Thank you, Zach, for today. Where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, which Zach Francis, and I don't know the actual thing there, or on Twitter, Zach_Francis there. Let's see. And those are the 2 main places, or you can go to francisbrothers.com and subscribe there and find all our different socials through there as well. So
that was Zach Francis.